So there was an alien abduction of the Washington Wizards defense tonight as Victor Webanyama actually put up a 50-piece as the San Antonio Spurs won by 9. Both teams, by the way, scored over 30 points. Defense was definitely optional in this. We are going to talk about the San Antonio Spurs, where they're at and where they're possibly going to go this year on the NBA Rundown tonight. I have some thoughts on some of the other games as well. But first, let's hear from the alien abductor himself, Victor Webanyama.
It's, kind of a private club. I don't know how many players are in it, but it's certainly something I'm proud of course, right now.
Did you sneak any peeks up at the scoreboard to see what number you were on?
Yeah, of course. Just like every game, yeah.
When you came out with about 7.5 minutes to go and had the big ovation, you guys were up 20. Are you kind of hoping that was it? You wouldn't have to go back in? You guys would just run away with it?
Yeah.
All right. So that was the alien right there talking about his 50-piece that he put up tonight. I absolutely love watching Victor play basketball. I watched the entire game this evening, and I can tell you his 50 points was very impressive. Now, of course, it was against the Washington Wizards, where defense is definitely optional, especially when Kyle Kuzma's playing, if you know what I mean. But here's the stat line for Victor tonight. 50 points. He had 8 3-pointers made, 6 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 1 steal. He actually had 1.5 less blocks than he normally has. He's averaging 3.5 blocks a game. But this is the Washington Wizards, and they stay as far away from the paint as humanly possible. All right. Well, welcome to the NBA Rundown. New to the show, please go ahead and subscribe. And, of course, like this video. If you're listening on our audio version, please share the show, if you will, with your friends. The audio version is definitely picking up steam. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We try to do these shows, if we can, nightly. Now I'm going to talk about the rest of the National Basketball Association, at least a couple of the games that went down tonight. And I'm sure at this point, it's just so hard to believe, but the Cleveland Cavaliers are actually 13-0. And of course, they played a Joel Embiid, Paul George-less Philadelphia 76er team tonight, who put up a good fight, but Cleveland ended up winning in Philly. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about the San Antonio Spurs tonight. Now, they are now 6-6 on the season, and they have some interesting games actually coming up. Their next game is on Friday night against the Los Angeles Lakers. That will be one of those games, where the courts look completely different for the NBA Cup, the Emirates NBA Cup. Wouldn't want to be sued by anybody, but can't wait to see how ugly the Los Angeles Lakers court's going to be. That being said, they go to they're actually playing that game in San Antonio. Then they go to Dallas on Saturday, so back-to-back. They play the Mavericks. Then they have the Thunder the following Tuesday at home. Then they have the Jazz at home, and we all know what that looks like. Then the Warriors come to town, and then they get to play the Jazz again. So, in other words, it will not surprise me if the San Antonio Spurs are basically a 10-10 team. Now, right now, as it stands this hour, game's still going on tonight as the Minnesota Timberwolves are attempting to lose back-to-back games in Portland to the Portland Trailblazers. Still about 8 minutes to go in that one, but the T-Wolves are currently down by 5. Unbelievable. Just absolutely disgraceful. That being said, I expect them to, still remain in the playoff picture for quite some time this year. I think trying to wait until next year just makes no sense. I think the Spurs probably should make a move or two to also help out Victor down the road as well. Whether or not they do that, it's, hard to tell. especially with the things going on with Greg Popovich, who the reports came out today that he did suffer a mild stroke. He is doing well and is expected to fully recover. So my best goes out to the Popovich family and, of course, the San Antonio Spurs organization. Now, they are in 11th spot right now. I mean, that is just how unbelievably competitive this Western Conference is. And, we entered the season and we knew it would be a very competitive conference. I mean, we knew that. We knew that the Oklahoma City Thunder would probably be atop of it or near the top. We didn't think that the Phoenix Suns would play as well as they played out of the gate. Now, Kevin Durant is down. They're going to lose to the Sacramento Kings tonight, who have the opportunity to light a beam in about 5 minutes as they're currently up by 20 in that one. We had no idea the Golden State Warriors were going to play as well as they played, which takes me to the Dallas Mavericks, who are currently in the 12th spot in the Western Conference. Now, if you're wondering, what do you have to do to actually end up in the 12th spot in the Eastern Conference, which is currently solely held by the Milwaukee Bucks, who actually got lucky and beat Detroit tonight in that game, but they're 3-8 right now. The Washington Wizards are one of those teams that if relegation actually existed, it would be a good place to start. So I think where we're at right now with Victor Wembanyama in his sophomore season is he has a real opportunity to absolutely be a difference maker. We're attempting to run some highlights from the game tonight. So hopefully we'll be able to run those and won't run into any licensing issues. If they're there, great. If not, I apologize. That being said, Victor was just fantastic tonight. Chris Paul certainly played a big part in that as well. Now, in tonight's game, Chris Paul, if you're wondering how many assists he had, because when you have a player actually score 50 points like a Wemby, especially because he's as tall as he is and attracts as much attention as he should attract by a team if they were actually playing defense. Remember, defense optional for the Washington Wizards. Paul had 11 assists tonight in the game. He also scored 9 points. I have to say, just one of the most impressive performances I've seen. I also think it was maybe one of the easier 50 pieces I've actually seen in the NBA. Just very interesting to see. Now, if you're wondering how many minutes did Stephon Castle get tonight, the rookie, he got 27 minutes tonight, so I'm glad they're playing him. 10 points, 5 assists, and 1 rebound. My advice to the San Antonio Spurs coaching staff is get that kid more minutes. Keep playing him as much as you can possibly play him. That would be great. No Jeremy Sochan tonight as well, which is probably why Victor was able to have as many shot opportunities as he did actually have tonight in the game. Now, Victor for the season is doing what we sort of thought he would do, coming into this particular year. He's averaging just around 20 points a game, averaging just about 10 rebounds a game, just under 3 assists a game, and nearly 4 blocks a game. So pretty much the stat line that we thought we'd see, and I think you'll see his scoring go up as he gets more comfortable with the new additions to the San Antonio Spurs team. So I highly anticipate, barring any sort of like major injuries, that at the very least, the San Antonio Spurs team should be knocking at the door of the NBA play-in this year. We have a long way to go, as you all know. Major injuries could take out any of the contenders and just shift them below the play-in possibilities. But when you look at where we're at right now, when you sort of looked at some of the struggles the San Antonio Spurs have had a little earlier in the season, it is good to see, just from a National Basketball Association perspective, just wanting to see the young stars actually perform and actually have the opportunity to perform and do really well, it is good to see Victor actually put up a 50-piece tonight. All right, so quickly elsewhere around the National Basketball Association tonight, just wanted to spend just 1 minute talking about a couple of the other games that have been completed to this point. Now, the Cleveland Cavaliers ended up beating the Philadelphia 76ers, as I mentioned. The Spider actually had 23, 13 boards, and 9 assists in that game. Darius Garland, those two are absolutely getting along, and you could argue maybe the best 1-2 punch. Kenny Atkinson, who's the new head coach of this particular team, you know, the guy that Kevin Durant got absolutely ran out of Brooklyn. Yeah, that guy. That guy's 13-0, and I think only 5 other teams have gone this far with winning 13 games or more in a row in the association. Congrats to the Cleveland Cavaliers on their fantastic start to the season. And then the other game I just wanted to mention, the Laker game and the T-Wolf game, and I mentioned the Kings game's almost over, but the Lakers and Grizzlies have about 10 minutes left to go in the game, and it's going to be a close finish. Lakers currently up by 3. At the time I was doing this podcast, LeBron, the old man, had 28 points and had absolutely put the Lakers on his shoulders, especially in the second half of tonight's game. But I was very impressed by the Chicago Bulls' performance tonight in New York, how they actually hung with that team. Karl Anthony Towns was approaching a 50-piece tonight. The Chicago Bulls pulled it out at the very end, hung in there, played really good. Jalen Brunson had a chance to win the game. I saw the ball actually go in and then, come back out. They could have easily won that game as well. But I like to talk about some of the young and up-and-coming teams in the association. And I do want to point out to everybody, as much as I talked about the San Antonio Spurs tonight being 6-6, the Houston Rockets are now 8-4. And this was one of those teams at the start of the season, I and a lot of other people have been talking about as a team to keep a very close eye on. We did not know that they wouldn't be playing Reed Shepherd as much as they're not playing him. We did not know exactly how the chemistry was actually going to work with this team now that they had added a couple additional pieces to it. But they are playing very well at this point. They are 8-4, and they beat the Los Angeles Clippers tonight in Houston in that game. Now, the final was 111-103. And some of the important things or stats to sort of take a look at in this game is Kevin Porter Jr. made his return to Houston, played only 6 minutes and scored 0 points in tonight's game. Speaking of their return to Houston, James Harden, 19 points tonight, 7 assists and 6 rebounds in the game. Look, you can only get James Harden to put together just legendary performances 1 out of every 4 games. So I'm not surprised he didn't have a lot left in the tank tonight. But this was a total, just sort of across the board. Eason, 18. Thompson, 18. Fred VanVleet, 15. And both Amon Thompson and Taria Eason, both are really good rebounders. They both had over 10 rebounds tonight in the game. Jalen Green, we've talked about him in the past couple weeks as well. Just love where his game is at. He's fitting in really well. 21 points, Şengün 13 and 11 boards for him tonight. And Dylan Brooks pitched in 15. Like, if there's a piece on this team that they could probably use as a trading piece that might not affect the overall outcome of this season and next season for the Houston Rockets, is probably Jabari Smith Jr. He had 5 points tonight, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist, and certainly will be good trade bait if they decide to fill their roster with a different style player, a la what the Dallas Mavericks did last year with PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a move made by the Houston Rockets that resembles something like that. A lot of people are talking about Jimmy Buckets somehow ending up in Houston. I'm not entirely sure. I love that. But Ume, the head coach, certainly would be able to deal with Jimmy Butler's, if you will, up and down parenthood style roller coaster personality that Jimmy Butler actually has. All right, that is it. Hey, listen, if you're new to the show, please go ahead and subscribe. And of course, like this video. Zach Edey just scored. The Lakers are now down by 1, 8 minutes to go in the game. For the NBA rundown, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.
This is Phoenix.